Hey, it's Anthony and Tucker with Land Title. We came to bring you your lender update for the month. Let's dive right into Boulder County, and we're going to look back at April stats.
All right, and now don't forget we have all of our slides down below and below in the email. So if you want the full slide deck, just go ahead and click on it. We also got it for the Denver metro market as well. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. Looking at our year over year, we can see that big green line on the top. That's our inventory, and it is going up and up, which is a great sign for buyers out there. They have a lot of choices. Your clients have a lot of product to choose from. Even when we're comparing it to last year, we're up about 7%. Under contracts up about 7%, sold about 3%, and our average sales price is looking good. But we're going to go into a lot more detail by price band for that one.
Absolutely. So let's talk about inventory by price band. I think this is the most important part, right? Sellers are out in droves. We're up 32%, like Tucker said. But where is that happening, right? The bulk of the inventory, Boulder has 646 units combined. There is so much inventory in the city of Boulder, and it's actually still more detached than attached, even though attached has had this huge increase in wave. But look at these other markets. Erie's at 200 units, right? We have a plethora of inventory in a lot of these. Longmont's the same size as Boulder, and it's only got 300 units of inventory. Yes, it's rising, but the craziest part about this is the fact that the higher, more expensive priced areas are really seeing more inventory come online and sit there. Look at Louisville, 72 units. We haven't seen 72 units in Louisville in so long. Couldn't even tell you the last time.
It had to be in the teens, in the teen years, and that really was one of the numbers that blew us away. Is Louisville at 72 earlier. Is a lot. Even the last couple of years, they've been sitting around 20 to 35 or so, given the month. And we're at 72.
Yeah, Superior right there with them. Yeah. Now, a lot of this could be rebuilds from the Marshall fires, but that just created a higher price point. So it creates, less buyers available to purchase those homes. So I think that's really important to see. The other thing, Tucker, tell us about month supply.
Month supply of inventory, and this is growing up across the board. It just depends on how much in which area. You can see a little bit more expensive areas like Boulder and Superior. They're hitting over 4, close to 5, 5.5 for Boulder County. Then we look at Louisville, Lafayette. They're sitting in the 3s. That's also because they just have a lower amount of inventory, even though it's higher than usual. It's still lower than a lot of these other areas, and they have a lot more desirability there. Then we jump over to Longmont and Erie. We can see they're both under 3. So it's going to feel a little bit more balanced, but it's still going to be buyer favored. So when you're out there talking to your clients, inform them, hey, go ask for that price concession. Go ask for the new appliances. Ask for those extra things. Because in a market like this with this much supply, your buyers are in the driver's seat. So really help educate them on that. Now, don't be unreasonable, but they really are in the driver's seat right now when it comes down to it.
They are. And if you look at how long it's taking to sell, this also kind of leans to that, right? You can't be completely unreasonable because it's very similar to last year. We're at 48 days, but that means it takes 48 days to go under contract for the average home. Now, the better homes, the ones your clients probably want, are going faster than this because the median would say so. But you can see it's not created equal across Boulder County either, right? Niwot leading the charge at 20 days, which is just so fun to see. But we see this from time to time where that happens. And then obviously Boulder having the most inventory, Boulder's taking the longest to sell at 53 days. So that's active to under contract time. The thing you have to remember is that, most of the county is all about the same, right? So it's kind of falling in line with that 40 days or so, but that doesn't mean they have 40 days to shop. So be careful what you tell them.
Mm-hmm. And when we're looking at this by price band, we're really going to see where there's really kind of a schism in the market right now. We have our 2.5 plus, then we have our 1 to 2.5, and then down below. And what we're really seeing in that is where the inventory is and the sales are. We had another really strong month in our sold data for our high-end luxury. That 2.5 plus, we had 10 sold between 2.5 and 10 sold and 3 million plus. That's a great month. That's really good for our luxury real estate. And that's an area where if you look to the left on our green bars, we have a lot of supply. So it's great to see this supply is being turned over and we have buyers out there shopping and getting those. Now let's look a little bit more into the meat and potatoes of our Boulder market and then to the higher end for the Boulder County. And that's our 1.5 to 2.5. We're still slightly down in those for our year to dates. And part of the reason why is interest rates are more expensive. The trade up's harder. It's harder to go, get that next house when giving up those golden handcuffs like we talk about.
Payments can easily double, right? You guys know that. So it just makes it difficult.
Yeah. And then, but the thing is we still have a lot more inventory coming on in those markets too. Really that 1 to 2 million, we've seen a big jump in inventory as well. So that's putting a little bit more pressure on those sellers. So it's a good opportunity for your buyers if they can stretch that payment and qualify for that higher loan balance to go get that higher end home, there's a lot of good opportunity. Now, when we look a little bit lower into that under $1 million, what we're really seeing is we see, once again, good increase in inventory, really that 600 to $1 million, which is really representative for a lot of the county for that detached home. We're seeing a lot of good inventory come on, a lot of good options there. But the thing that we're seeing is some of it's down a little bit, and part of it's up a little bit. And the reason why is interest rates, right? There's just less folks out there being able to afford those homes. So there's going to be just less activity in those markets. So that's where we're seeing some of the fall off from where the sales are happening. It's just people are stretching into that 600 plus range is a little tough. So we're just not seeing the same numbers there. But when we look year to date, it's slightly down, but we still have a lot of spring left to get going.
We do. Now, if we look over onto the attached market side, you can see a little bit of a different dynamic. Now, the luxury market, I think this is awesome to see. We've seen quite a bit, especially in the really high end, 2-3 million. We've seen some sales this year. That's been awesome. Now, if we look down into the kind of the bulk, that median end, 400 to 600,000, just really tough, right? Under 20% drops on most of that. Then you can see, even that 600 to $1 million. Excuse me. Yeah, 600 to $1 million. You're seeing a rise in actual sales, and I think a lot of that could be that townhouse inventory out in the county. Very different product type. Way less of the issues that we're seeing with like a condo in the city of Boulder or condos out in Longmont even, where you have rising HOAs and deferred maintenance and all that. When you have newer stuff, people still really want to insure it. They're willing to do it on the more reasonable side. They don't have HOAs with issues, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're seeing that, you really can feel that in the attached market. The only real issue is we have so much more inventory coming online across the board. Yet again, another year where most of the market's up 30+%. And that just makes it difficult as a seller. So your buyers are in the driver's seat, and even more so in attached.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so when we're looking at this for detached for our month supply of inventory, right, this is telling us kind of that relationship between what's available and what our buyer activity is doing. You can see it's really still a function all the way up until we hit that $2.5 million price band on the left side. We're all the way up. It's purely a function of interest rates and cost. The more affordable it is, the shorter the month supply of inventory is, because A, there's less product in there, but also because it's more affordable and more people can afford it, your buyer pool is bigger. So that's what we're kind of looking at here is your buyers, the higher they go up in price point, the less competition they're going to have and the more options and more in the driver's seat they're going to be, is what this is showing us. Now, when we look at our month supply, or excuse me, our days on market, the DOM, on the right-hand side, we really kind of see across the board it's growing, right? We're in that time of year, it's listing season. We're going to keep seeing this grow probably for the next month to 2 months until we hit about June, July, and we'll probably peak out there for our days on market. That's when it's going to kind of really start growing in size, right? Because that's when we're going to have way more inventory. So our days on market are going to start going up around probably around June to July. Typically, that's what we see. And what we see here is they're showing as the average is 27. You can see how part of it's a function of price band. But anecdotally, we hear of stuff going on a contract first week. We hear of other things taking 6 months and longer, and then they're on their second or third agent. So your client says buyers have time to shop, but if it's a really nice home that's buttoned up and turnkey,
probably
they want to make a quicker move. That's where you're getting the phone call on the weekend for that letter.
All right, so let's talk about attached a little bit. Kind of on the flip side of this, just like we talked about with actual solds, we're already in a buyer's market even at the lower end, right? And then the higher the price point, just the more extreme that gets. You get into the luxury market, you get 12 months of inventory, but even the bulk of the market, those townhouses like we talked about out in the county, 5 months of inventory at 600 to $1 million, under 5 months of inventory, but it's still really buyer favored. So that's great news. The only issue is if you look at it by days on market, yeah, it's taken 50 days to go under contract in most cases, but the good stuff selling faster, right? Mm-hmm. So you do still have to act with urgency. I think that's a great message to those buyers out there.
All right, now we're going to go ahead and look at our average sold price. I really want to look at this on the lower graph. We see the TTM change on the far right column, and that's our trailing 12 months. And what that really means is we're comparing the last 12 months to 13 to 24 months ago, and just seeing how prices have changed. So we kind of get the average of averages. And what we really like to see here is almost every part of the county is up. For a good part of the beginning of the year, several parts were negative, but we're really starting to see some growth in our detached market, which is a great sign. Where we're seeing a little bit of slippage is Erie. And part of that reason is because there's so much supply. Remember, we almost had 200 units. 200 units in Erie is a huge percentage of the overall inventory out there. So we're just seeing a little bit of slippage. Now, it's not a major concern. We don't think so far it's a major concern. It's really just a function of supply versus demand. But across the board, otherwise, we're seeing Louisville at almost 9.8%. Longmont's even up slightly. Boulder's doing well. Lafayette's doing well. So this is a good sign. A lot of these numbers were negative towards the end of last year in Q4, Q1 of this year. So we're seeing these get positive. That really shows that the tide's starting to rise a little bit, but slowly, which is what we need right now, is a healthy, slow grow, not one of those rapid grows.
The one thing I wanted to point out here is Louisville and Superior are definitely feeling those marginal buyers rebuilds. So you can see that in the numbers here, and we're probably within the next year, we'll start to see that phase out so we can actually see a good comparison again. And those good comparisons should fall right in line with everything else. So nothing to stress about there. The attached market, though, this is where you see it on the flip side. The interesting part is over the last 12 months, the city of Boulder has seen a 2.7% rise in their average sales price in attached housing. A lot of that could be large luxury deals, right? The real issue is that those $300,000, $400,000, $600,000 condos in Boulder, they're feeling like everywhere else in the county. So you can really see it. Look at Lafayette, down almost 6%. Niwot, Erie, Longmont, the rest of the county in so many ways. We're seeing that compression in the marketplace, and it's just rising HOA costs create less affordability. Attached housing should be an affordable product, and when it becomes less affordable, it gets affordable one way or another, and largely right now is due to compression in that sales price.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we're off to a decent start. We can see how we had a slow start to the year, but then we really picked up speed in March and in April, which was a great sign given all the fluctuation you had in your market with rates and tariffs and all the bond stuff. So it's really good to see that even though with those headwinds, we were still above last year. I think this is a really positive sign. Something to share with your clients is even with these headwinds, we're still having more units sold.
Yeah, look at Louisville. That's a dead giveaway of like a really nice price point, 42% more sales. There's more inventory. There are buyers out there looking for them. Yeah. So I think it's a great sign to show, keep after it. We're going to have a good year. I really think we're going to be up year to date, total year, right? So it just depends on when we see that. If we actually get any love from interest rates ever throughout the year, this whole narrative could change, right? Sales could go through the roof. So for right now, steady's the course. Don't expect anything to change unless we actually see a change in rates, because you can see it in buyer behavior, right? They're trudging through mud, but they're getting it done.
And you'll be the first to know.
No kidding, right?
All right, so we're talking our percent sold to list price. This is both for attached and detached. No surprise, given the market, things have started compressing down a little bit. You can see on the upper graph just how extreme it was. We're over on the far side now in April of 25. And things are getting a little bit more reasonable.
At what should be the peak, really, or pretty close.
And what it should be. And for all the price bands, we're at 98.6. That is not really a buyer or seller. That's pretty neutral overall for a macro average. But when we look into it by price band, that's where we can see some discrepancies. Really, that upper end, it's actually gained some momentum.
It's really not bad at all, right?
No, we really gained some momentum. We were in the low 90s for a little while. And then when we dropped down to that under $1 million mark, a lot of competition there. Now, this doesn't include concessions
or price
drops. Yep. This is what it went under contract for that day in the MLS. And we can see that things are coming in pretty close when they're priced right. So it's just a good sign to show your buyers, hey, if it's overpriced, you can still put in a lower offer if they haven't done their price drop yet.
It's great to see. Well, we really appreciate you guys tuning in today. Don't forget that if you need any other local market data, you can reach out to one of us. Other than that, we're always here for you. We'd love to work with you on your refi business as you get it coming in here, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your spring.
Have a great day.